How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm an avid herpetologist, and today we are revisiting another deck profile that has been a favorite here on the channel, and that is the brand new GigaSeadramon. Now, the GigaSeadramon archetype is one that I have kept up with since its initial release in EX3, and I am super excited to finally have the Seadramon X line to brew with. Now, if you're looking for a traditional GigaSeadramon list, for instance, if you've been looking around online, you've probably seen a couple of lists that look a bit like this. This is going to be your standard GigaSeadramon line that makes full use of the Seadramon X support and functions kind of like a pseudo Mirage Galgamon deck. It uses a lot of unsuspends, a lot of jamming, and battle protections to basically try to OTK our opponent super aggressively. That is not what we are going to be doing today. Now, I have been brewing up a list that is much more classic fish support, so what we're going to be looking for is more of a control kind of archetype that can help chip away our opponents with pretty reasonable aggression and constantly be threatening aces. So what we're going to be doing is looking to abuse things like decode, looking to abuse those battle protections like I mentioned, and basically just be cheating out bodies left and right to kind of force our opponent to play into those really oppressive ace cards. Now, obviously this list is going to look a little bit different than some of the other lists that you're going to be seeing online for GigaSeadramon, but as I said, this is a list I have been brewing up myself, and the title is not clickbait. I did go 4-0 with this recently at Locals. Here are the matchups, just in case you were curious about what it was that I was going up against. Not any walk in the park matchups for sure. It was a pretty rough Locals, but we managed to pull out the 4-0 by the skin of our teeth. Now, before we get into our deck profile, quick reminder for you guys, if you are looking for a way to support the channel without spending any additional money, you can now do so through my TCG Player affiliate link, which you will find in the description of the video here today. By following that link, there will not be any upcharge to you, but they will notice that I sent a little bit of traffic to their website, which means I'll be making a little bit of a commission off of every card that you buy. So if you are looking for ways to support me and the channel without spending any additional money, that TCG Player affiliate link is a great way to do that. So be sure to use that on your next TCG Player purchase. Thank you in advance, and with all of that out of the way, guys, let's see what we're cooking with today. Alright, here we are again, guys. Now, if you're wondering why I'm keeping my voice a little bit lower in this video, my wife is currently trying to sleep in the other room. It is pretty late here, but I gotta film these videos when I can. I got a pretty busy work schedule these days, but alright, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. We are going to be starting off with our eggs just like we normally do, starting with our 4 copies of BT7 Bukamon. These will be the only eggs that I'm going to be running. It is a fantastic egg that will trigger anytime we cheat a Digimon out of our sources to gain us a memory. Not only is this going to be good for helping to, of course, extend our plays, but it's also fantastic for choking our opponent in the early turns. We have quite a few Digimon that are going to be able to trigger Bukamon's effect, so we'll go ahead and start moving up so we can get into what those will be. Starting off with our rookies, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Crabmon from EX8. A fantastic new addition to the deck. On play, this Digimon gives any of our Digimon in play blocker. Does not have to be played by effect or from the sources, so you can hard play this from the hand to make a blocker in a pinch. It also has, of course, that really great generic jamming inheritable that gets printed on so many blue cards these days. But you know, we love to see it in this archetype. Now, supplementing our Crabmon, we are going to be playing a full 4 copies of Crabmon X Antibody. Crabmon X is actually, in my opinion, one of the best new additions to the deck. He has an on-play or when Digivolving effect where one of your Digimon cannot be deleted in battle until the end of your opponent's turn. This is going to mimic the promo Seadramon's battle protection, which, as you guys obviously know, is very strong. It also has a when attacking inheritable once per turn. If you have 7 or less cards in your hand, you can draw one. This isn't going to come up super often because we draw so many cards in this deck, but during the early turns, if you were to, for instance, promote a Crabmon, Digivolve into Crabmon X to get that protection. If you don't already have the full 7 cards in hand, you can go up into a champion to get that draw before your hand starts to flood with all of the searches that this deck uses. So, honestly, the primary reason we are playing this guy is just going to be for that battle protection, whether we are promoting a Crabmon to get it so we can get some nice safe early chip damage without spending any memory, or if we're cheating him out of our sources just to make sure that one of our stacks stays nice and safe. He's just a really nice addition. Now, if you're wondering why we're playing 3 Crab and 4 Crab X, it's because this Crab X doesn't really need Crabmon in order to function. Really, the only reason that Crabmon is going to be helpful for Crab X is because, again, you can promote or play out a base Crabmon and then Digivolve Crab X on top of it. So even if you don't have them both right off the bat, if you promote Crab but don't have Crab X yet, you can start Digivolving up, and when you cheat Crabmon out, you're always going to have the option of just playing the Crab X on top of that Crab body once it's been cheated out. So we're going to be wanting to see Crab X more often anyways, because just like Crabmon, he doesn't have to be played by effect or from sources, or even play on top of Crabmon to get his protection. You can just play him out of sources and have full value. So 4 Crab X, 3 Crab. Now I am playing another jamming rookie, we'll get to him in a minute, but before we do, we are going to be, of course, covering our searchers. We are playing a full 4 copies of Sangomon. Some of the lists you'll see online are playing less than 4. I am playing a full 4 because we are looking to get full value out of his on-play effect. Reveals the top 3 to add any Digimon with the aquatic trait and a card with the Liberator trait from among them to your hand. We are playing not only copies of Sangomon, but also some other Liberator cards that we'll be able to add as well. His inheritable does come up quite a bit as well. End of attack, you can gain a memory. This pairs really well with our MetalSeadramon, who of course digivolves on top of this to get that battle protection, so we can check security, gain that memory, and hopefully choke our opponent as close to 1 as we can. So the full 4 copies of Sangomon will be able to have that inheritable nice and often, as well as having those reliable searchers that we can drop at a moment's notice, and spam out of our sources pretty frequently to get full value over and over and over again. Now, before we move up into our champions, we have one last rookie. As I mentioned, one more jamming inheritable in the form of Betamon. Betamon's ability is if it is played by an effect, you can choose one of your opponent's Digimon and make sure that it cannot attack until the end of their turn. I'm keeping this card as a one-off because I do think that Floodgate can come up and be helpful in certain circumstances. There will be times where I just want to be able to spam this out, freeze a body, and just make sure that body is out of commission for the turn cycle. Hopefully this card can help buy us that one extra turn sometimes, where if we are chipping down our opponent's security and want to stage off the aggression just long enough to close it out, hopefully Betamon can get us there. Alright, moving up into our champions. The first one we're going to talk about, please forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. I did read the comment on my last video. I believe the correct pronunciation for this guy right here is Xiquemon. I think that's correct, Xiquemon. So Xiquemon here is 4 to play, 2 to digivolve, and 4000 DP, and is actually the only 4 of I'm playing in my champion slot. So this guy's effect on play is to draw 1, and if he is played from the sources, also will gain you a memory. This is the card I want to be chaining most often out of my sources when possible. He also, of course, has that jamming inheritable to help us continue to be aggressive with our level 5s. One of the big reasons I am playing Xiquemon at 4 copies is when we go into our GigaSeadramons, as long as we were able to digivolve into MetalSeadramon without passing our turn, this guy will make sure that we can go into Giga completely for free. So basically, if our opponent is not playing into our aces, which we want them to, but obviously they're going to know MetalSeadramon's coming. So if they're not playing into it, we want to be able to still be aggressive and digivolve and get our GigaSeadramons online without having to worry about them forcibly triggering the ace. So basically the idea is, if we training, memory boost, whatever, and we can get into MetalSeadramon, cheat out Shui is going to gain us a memory, Buka is going to gain us a memory, and gain back the 2 memory that we used for the GigaSeadramon. That way we can immediately be aggressive with it. Use Huankunmon to tuck Shui back into our sources, potentially get 4 checks off of the Giga. It's just a really nice interaction. So this is our 4 of. There are also other ways that we can cheat this out. Again, it's just ways that we can memory choke our opponent. And putting this under one of our decode bodies at level 5, we are playing Marinebullmon. So if our opponent deals with Marinebullmon, they'll also get choked for an additional memory and potentially have their turn stolen back from them. So 4 copies of this guy right here. He is easily the level 4 that I want to be seeing most often. Everything else is going to be played at less copies. The next level 4 we'll be playing is 3 copies of Lanamon. So this is actually like a surprisingly strong card, even by hybrid standards, having that hybrid body rolled up into a searcher where she can search for any aquatic body and either add it to hand or tuck it into sources, which is even better. When attacking as an inheritable, once per turn, you can return a level 3 Digimon from play to the hand. This is super vital because it helps us finally have a reliable way to deal with floodgates that would prevent us from playing bodies from our sources. So it's really troublesome like Pilumons and Pamumons will no longer provide like a massive problem for this deck. We can now get around those pretty consistently thanks to our Lanamons. The fact that she is also just happens to be a hybrid that we can use to go for game on a moment's notice, it's honestly just icing. The fact that this card is just another source of search. So if we like play our Sangomons from our hands, we get a search. Digivolve into Lanamon, get another search. It's just wild. We're going to be churning through our deck so fast with these cards. Now, The next champion, I know I'm probably going to get quite a few comments asking about replacements for. It is 3 copies of Seadramon. This card is expensive, and yes, it is going to be something that unfortunately is very difficult to replace because of what it is doing. Yes, we do have Crabmon X who can help supplement the on-play when digivolving effect, but unfortunately we do not have a replacement for the inheritable. It is difficult to replace. I really don't think you need more than 3. You can probably get away with 2, but like, realistically, unfortunately, if you want to be playing a deck like this, especially my personal list, most optimally, unfortunately, you will need to bite the bullet and pick this card up. As I mentioned, this card being able to digivolve over Sangomon to get maximum value and be able to get a safe check while still gaining that memory, that's pretty hard to replicate, unfortunately. The fact that we can also spam this card out of our sources, just like Crab X, to keep refreshing that full battle protection, it's pretty important, especially, like I said, when we are dealing with a lot of aces. We want those aces to be safe, and Seadramon is how we are going to do that. But the fact that our inheritable also gives us a rushable body, again, to help close the game out as we are doing a lot of early chip damage, it's hard to replace. I think the probably best way to replace it is going to be either copies of Deep Saver Seadramon or EX3 Ibidramon. Neither of these cards are perfect fixes, but if you really don't have the funds for Seadramon promo, these are cards that you're probably going to want to be looking at. I suppose technically you could also include more copies of the next card I'm going to be showing you, which is going to be 2 copies of Rush Seadramon. Believe it or not, this is actually a card I've considered swapping out for Deep Saver Seadramon, just because I think Deep Saver does a little bit more in the early game. But this Seadramon is just very simple, has Rush as well as Jamming, so if we are playing bodies out of our sources, we can digivolve into this card for 2, make it free with something like a memory boost or a training, and basically it's just going to give us, again, another easy, quick attack that can hopefully help us close games out. I did cut this card down to 2 because, like I said, I don't think I need to see this quite as often as I used to. I'm pretty happy seeing all of my other cards here. 2 copies of that just so it's there when we do need it, but we'll go ahead and leave our champions behind, move up into our level 5s. Starting off, we have 4 copies of Huankunmon. Huankunmon is probably the best generic blue level 5 right now. There has been some talk about whether this card gets hit on the coming ban list. I really hope it doesn't. The only deck that's really abusing it right now is Mirage Galgamon, and in my opinion, I think there are other cards in that deck that are much bigger problems than Huankun. Not to say that Huankun can't get abused more in the future, but I do hope that this card gets left alone. Please just get rid of BT11 Mirage and let Fish keep their archetypal card. This is, again, going to help us trigger our Bukamons in the early turn so we can choke our opponent, with the very well-known inheritable of tucking any of your other Digimon to unsuspend. So this is what's going to let us be hyper-aggressive with our GigaSeadramons. Huankunmon is just honestly hard to replace. The card lets you get more bodies. Playing Sangomon out is going to get us more searches. There's just so many good things to talk about with the card. We don't need to get into all of them. You know how good this card is. So let's go ahead and start talking about our next level 5, which may need a little bit more talk, and that's going to be Marinebullmon. Marinebullmon has Decode, meaning that when he would leave play, as long as it is not by battle, he is going to play out a level 4 Digimon from the sources. He goes 1 down. This is again going to be a way that we can play out our Xiquemon from our sources to gain that memory back. He's also got an on-play when digivolving effect to tuck any level 5 or lower aquatic Digimon from our hand into any of our Digimon's sources. This is a great way to set up his own decode effect if you're playing himself out from a source, for instance like our GigaSeadramon, or maybe decode from one of our level 6s. But it's also a great way to just reload the stack from another card. So like GigaSeadramon, for instance, only can play cards out of its own sources. So if you're running low, like this card, digivolving into it, you can tuck a card into our GigaSeadramon sources to give him something else to play out. So really nice there. He also has an end of attack once per turn effect where you can play a level 4 or lower Digimon from the sources, which again can cheat out our level 4 Xiquemon from our sources, but it can also bring out things like Sangomon to again get more searches. I just think Marinebullmon is really solid. The fact that we do have 2 different forms of battle protection makes Decode much harder to interact with, where they can't get rid of it by battle, so they basically will almost always have to trigger the Decode if they want to stop that body and prevent me from acing. So I do think Marinebullmon is an excellent addition to this more control-y list, but with that out of the way, these are kind of the primary ones we want to be digivolving into, but I am playing, as I mentioned, quite a few aces. Starting off, we are going to be playing 2 copies of Zudomon ACE. This is the very well-known, generally considered best blue level 5 ace. We'll definitely be playing 2 copies of him because I think there are plenty of circumstances where blasting into him is going to give us a lot of advantage, but I'm also supplementing him with a single copy of WereGarurumon ACE. WereGaruru, I think, is pretty slept on, honestly. This card on play is going to let us draw a card and discard a card, and then once per turn during all turns, if an effect is going to add cards to our hand, he can choose one of your opponent's Digimon and make sure that Digimon cannot suspend until the end of their turn. Obviously, this is going to be stopping blocks, but it's also going to make sure that they cannot attack us on their turn. So this is going to stop quite a few cards, and again, can be really helpful for just slowing aggression. Windmill slamming this card down is also going to not only freeze a body, but immediately potentially threaten for, again, our level 6 aces. So both of these guys are things that I can play comfortably from my hand and really not feel too bad about it. Especially if we're going to be able to immediately Digivolve up into our higher level cards, and we'll go ahead and start talking about those. As I mentioned, we are playing a lot of aces, and that includes level 6. We are going to be playing a total of 4 copies of the beautiful MetalSeadramon ACE. For those of you who are big fans of MetalSeadramon like I am, I know you guys, just like me, are super excited that this card exists now. It definitely was a long time coming, waiting for a good playable MetalSeadramon, but this card definitely fills the bill. So, on play when Digivolving, you can de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, and then bottom deck a Digimon with play cost 7 or less. Super abusive, and definitely painful to play into. All turns, he also has a pretty undervalued floodgate in my opinion, where if you have 1 or more memory, none of your opponent's Digimon can suspend. This is obviously great for stopping blocks, but it also means our opponent cannot blitz either, which is going to stop quite a few cards from triggering very painful effects. MetalSeadramon ACE is definitely going to be one of the primary things that we want to be threatening. When we Digivolve into Marinebullmon or Huankunmon, we want to be building out our wider board state, threatening potential aces. If our opponent chooses to play into them, we blast into MetalSeadramon. If not, we just keep chipping away at security with all of the bodies that we're going to be playing out. So MetalSeadramon is going to be one of the top-end payoffs that we have for the deck. And of course, the namesake for the deck, we are playing our 2 copies of GigaSeadramon. Now 2 might seem a little bit low, but hear me out. This card is honestly everything I could have hoped for from GigaSeadramon. He has 3 awesome keywords with Security Attack +1, Reboot, and Blocker. He has a when Digivolving and when attacking effect once per turn to cheat out any level 5 or lower body from his sources. I've seen a lot of lists playing all sorts of different bases to abuse this effect. And all turns, when you would play something from the sources, you can de-Digivolve 2 on one of your opponent's Digimon. GigaSeadramon is just so easy to abuse. As I mentioned, as long as we can Digivolve safely into MetalSeadramon, if we have a Xiquemon in one of our sources, we can Digivolve into our Giga, cheat him out, gain 2 memory back, and basically do this Digivolution for free, which then opens up a ton of aggression since our Huankunmon can tuck the Xiquemon to get an unsuspend, which basically represents 4 jamming protected security checks. GigaSeadramon will close games out shockingly fast. He is a super strong card. The fact that he also has just inherent reboot blocker is going to give us some nice defenses, backed up by cards like Crabmon X and Seadramon, who can refresh complete battle protection, making sure he will not be deleted no matter how big the body he is blocking. But just in case our opponent is not wanting to play into MetalSeadramons or GigaSeadramons, they're going to know that game plan is coming. I wanted to back them up with another Mega, and I wound up cutting one of my copies of GigaSeadramon to bump the other card up to 2 because it is just that good in my opinion. That is 2 copies of Ryugumon. Ryugumon is another decode card, so again, if it would leave play outside of battle, it'll cheat out a level 5 from the sources. When Digivolving, you can play a level 4 or lower blue Digimon card from this Digimon sources without paying the cost, and at the end of your turn, you can return one of your Digimon to the bottom of the deck to choose one of your opponent's Digimon with an equal or lower level, and return that card to the bottom of the deck as well. This, of course, will immediately trigger the decode, meaning you can cheat out the level 5 from the sources, and there's just so many absurd ways to abuse this in this list, guys. Not only can you literally just put this over one of your aces that were hard played from the hand to just immediately play it back out again off of the decode while also dealing with an opponent's body, but if you have this card as a stack topper, like if again they're not playing into your aces, you can just Digivolve into this, play out a level 4, bottom deck one of their bodies, then play out a level 5. Now what you've done is not only gained a ton of resources off of our lower levels, but you're also setting up for both your level 5 and level 6 aces in the same turn. Basically, it is just the ultimate way to keep pressure up. It is a massive tempo swing every time you Digivolve into this guy, and I'm really never not happy to see this card. I think this card is just so solid and really does help kind of tie this more control-y list together. So that is going to do it for all of our Digimon. From here on, it's really just consistency pieces. I am going to be playing 2 copies of Davis Motomia, nice memory setter tamer that's going to serve as an extra search, while also giving us a tamer body that our Lanamons can digivolve onto, as again, to end the game. We're going to be playing 3 copies of Blue Memory Boost to check our top 4, add any blue Digimon from among them to our hand, and bottom deck the rest, and 2 copies of Mental Training. Mental Training and Memory Boost, I was kind of debating on how I wanted to divide these two, but I wound up going with a 3-3 split. Blue Memory Boost is going to dig us a little bit deeper, which is obviously going to be great for finding missing pieces, but Mental Training can not only grab pieces of itself, it can also grab Blue Memory Boosts or Davis's, so depending on what our opponent is doing, it just gives us more options. All of these cards are things we can play from our hand to hopefully choke our opponent to a nice thin memory margin while still being able to search for pieces that we can use on our follow-up turns. So this deck is pretty brutal. It is a very, very powerful control shell, but I will say that it does take some practice to get really good with. There are a lot of branching decision trees with this list, and it is something that's going to take probably a little bit of time. It's got like not a terrible floor, but it does have a very high ceiling when you get really good at knowing which cards to play out and when. But yeah, that is going to about do it, guys. I hope you liked my take on the GigaSeadramon archetype. Just to clarify, I don't have anything against like the Mirage Galgamon, like OTK kind of style with like GigaSeadramon and the X Antibody support. I don't have anything against that, but I do think that if you're going to be playing the fish archetype, like, why go for like a slightly worse version of Mirage? Like if you want to do OTK outside of just liking Seadramon, you may as well just go ahead and play Mirage. If you're going to play Fish, I personally am of the mindset that you want to really maximize on like the benefits that Fish bring to the table, which is playing out bodies, being super sticky, and having a lot of battle protections. And I feel like this list does a fantastic job at just trying to maximize those benefits. I've really been enjoying the shell. It is so much fun to pilot, so hopefully you guys will be able to enjoy it as well. If you're interested in picking up any of the cards, remember to use that TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. You'll be supporting me here on the channel, helping me bring you more amazing content, and it will not cost you any additional money. If you guys have any questions about the list, of course, feel free to leave those in the comments below. I usually try to respond to as many of those as I can, and with this being such a diverse archetype, there are probably plenty of tech cards that you guys have questions about. Definitely leave those down in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your lists as well. With that, guys, do remember I have been an avid herpetologist. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.